Avatar: The Way of the Water is one of the boldest film sequels ever, and it took an immense amount of work to make sure everything turned out the way it was supposed to. This means the cast had to follow some very strict rules. Underwater challenges. The cast weren't let off easy when it came to some of the stunts in the show, especially the underwater ones. The unbelievable scenes we saw were completely real and took an incredible amount of hard work. The actors were submerged in a tank constructed at Manhattan Beach Studios in California, where the director and producer John Landau's production company Lightstorm is located. They built it to be about 120 feet long, 60 wide, and 30 deep. In total, that's more than 250,000 gallons of water, and that's almost 100,000 liters. The tank was built so the production could be sure that the actors were doing these dangerous stunts in a controlled environment. James Cameron, the creator of Avatar, explained how this was crucial. We could create wave interaction with the creatures and people surfacing, getting hit by a 10-foot wave and trying to say their lines and trying to breathe at the same time. They also had to make sure that the water was as clear as possible, which is also why the cast weren't allowed to use scuba gear. It had to be as natural as possible because scuba gear would create bubbles, and they couldn't have that. James explained that each bubble would be a little wiggling mirror that could get in the way of the system that's trying to read all the marker dots on the actor's body, because it wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a marker dot and a bubble. So the actors had to genuinely hold their breath for entire scenes at a time to achieve the wanted effect. The entire cast had to learn special freediving techniques to make this work, and the crew hired the Navy freediver Kirk Crack, who can hold his breath for up to 7 minutes. They actually had to start the training as early as 2017 to make sure that the cast had enough training for the huge job ahead of them. 2017 might sound incredibly early, but it turned out to be extremely worth it, especially for Kate Winslet, who ended up being able to hold her breath for 7 whole minutes by the end of the training period. Well, it sounds like Kirk did an amazing job at passing on his expertise. Kate described the experience as this meditative, almost trance-like state because you have to relax. You've got no option because you use more oxygen holding that breath than you do thinking about other things. And holding their breath was just one of the things that they had to do underwater. With the acting and the moving around, it truly becomes performance art on a whole other level. James, who's actually been working with Kate ever since Titanic, praised Kate's incredible skills. Kate enjoyed the freedom of being able to express herself underwater. I've been a freediver for 50 years, and I think the longest I've ever held my breath was 5.5 minutes. Kate had a lot of fun underwater, and her accomplishments even surprised herself. When she reached her underwater record, she genuinely couldn't believe it. She apparently has a recording of the moment she surfaced when she said, "Am I gone? Did I make it?" and then immediately asking what her time was. When she heard the numbers, she had to immediately report back to James. But apparently being underwater seems to have enhanced the actors' performances. According to Jack Champion, who plays Spider, it was very easy to pretend to actually be the character and stay in the scene, because being in the ocean and interacting with those creatures genuinely feels real when you're in the moment. Perhaps it's the trance-like state that helps them pretend it's all real. Shutting everything out seems to help them forget everything about their real lives and allows them to focus only on the moment and who they're trying to portray. It sounds a bit like meditation, but perhaps a little bit more dangerous considering they're underwater. These scenes were mostly done under extremely careful conditions. The actors could always swim back up to get their air, of course, but they were also doing a great job at using the proper techniques to stay under for as long as they could. They had to learn to swim, but also to dive and get out of the water properly. Everything involved with the water was important to have it look as realistic as possible. James is, of course, very interested in the reality of things and said it looks real because the motion was real and the emotion was real. Becoming the characters. A very important part of acting is, of course, living yourself into the role, and the cast of Avatar had to get really emotionally involved to be able to sell these characters to us. Bailey Bass explained that they would get so involved that these feelings could sometimes bleed into their personal lives, especially when it comes down to emotional scenes. That is why it's so important to have a great director on set who understands that these things can happen. Bailey especially praised James for his caring approach. He always wanted to make sure our mental health is protected. He would do that by, if we're doing an emotional scene, taking his time. And I wish more people understood that. The world of Avatar is so huge and detailed that a great amount of talent is required to make sure the audience is captivated by what's happening on screen. This is why it's important the actors could express these emotions as authentically as possible, because there really is a lot of pressure on them to deliver the right performance. At the same time, this gave the actors a lot of freedom because they had to see themselves as their characters. It also sometimes meant that they knew what their character would do better than anyone else, and James completely trusted them with this, and sometimes even let himself be a part of the Avatar world. Bailey Bass felt like the way he directed them made it feel like he was in Pandora just as much as they were. He didn't keep his distance instance, he got involved in the scenes and created a safe space for the cast. James seems to have had a complete trust in the cast. He described every take as a blank slate and allowed the actors to follow their hearts, especially because it sounds like the final product ends up being a bit of a patchwork project. He lets the actors do all the things that they want. Like if somebody wants to impulsively grab another person and shake them, they're allowed to, because that gives James something to work with in the editing process. He didn't hesitate to share his thoughts on this, saying, "The key is to always honor the actors' performances and the actors' impulse in that moment. That's critical. He gives the actors the freedom to live the lives of their characters and do what feels right for them, because he can take their vision and combine it with his vision in the post-production. It's like the perfect kind of teamwork where everyone gets to pitch in to the final project." James also confessed that sometimes, if they like a specific thing somebody did on a different take, and if the scene is compatible enough, they might move it to a whole other scene and merge the two, making it bigger and better. A lot of people predicted that a new movie 13 years later would be a huge fail, so this put on extreme amounts of pressure on not just the crew but also the actors. Avatar was for years the biggest box office hit the world had ever seen. With innovative technology and the incredible world building, it took the world by storm with its release in 2009. James has been very patient and has made sure not to rush this project so that they could achieve this once again. And we're of course very excited to see how the movie will be doing. Zoe Saldana spoke about how it feels to return to the set and how she kind of enjoys the opportunity to introduce Avatar to a whole other generation. Because there's actually a lot of children who have never seen the original movie, and Zoe sees that as the perfect way to get new people involved. It gives us an even bigger opportunity to create new fans, even within a generational family, multi-generational in a family, and that's quite exciting. For Zoe, Sam Worthington, and the other original actors, this is especially meaningful. It was very easy to get back into the role, according to Sam. It's like no time had passed for them. But it also feels different, because to Zoe, things feel even more special this time around. It feels more elevated. This is the thing that might draw in all the older fans along with the newer ones, because while the first movie was incredible, it seems to be lacking something that the second movie has perfectly portrayed. It's way fuller of emotion this time around, especially with family being such an important aspect. James has said that this time around he's writing what he knows, which is how important family is to him. This might resonate with audiences way better than another take on a full war would. And it's especially important for the actors to be on board with this vision as well. Kate Winslet understood this vision, especially since she's also a parent now and can really resonate with Renal as the strong mother and leader that she is. So, what do you think about the challenges the actors had to deal with in Avatar: The Way of the Water? As always, do let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care, and thank you so much for watching.